Hey friends, Sean here, and let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and you felt like they speak in foreign? I mean, you're both English, but it's like they speak in Russian and you speak in Greek. There's just total miscommunication. Well, misunderstandings, miscommunications, offenses, and conflicts can all be reduced dramatically if we just take 3 simple steps in connecting with people. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Sean here, speaker, coach, and author of the book Have a Life Attack. I'm also a certified DISC personality and behavioral consultant, and today I'm going to share with you 3 simple steps that you can take to connect effectively, to minimize those misunderstandings, reduce that conflict, and really connect with people, be it one-on-one, one-to-group, or one from the stage, one-to-many. So stick around, and at the end I'll be sure to share bonus with you too. So what's step number 1? Well, step number 1 is identifying your specific personality style. You know, throughout the centuries, all the great programs related to personality and behavioral styles by philosophers, psychiatrists, etc., have all identified sort of 4 elements, if you would. Think back to Empedocles, 444 BC, who started off with talking about earth and air and fire and water as the 4 different elements. Just after that, Hippocrates, father of medicine, I should know, being a pharmacist, he talked about, in 400 BC, he talked about the choleric, the sanguine, the phlegmatics and melancholic, different kinds of fluids that were in the body, and that's how he identified the different types of personality styles. Fast forwards into the 1900s, and Carl Jung, the psychiatrist, talked about thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition as 4 different styles and personality styles and elements within an individual. But I really love the DISC model of relating. It's easy to identify, easy to apply, easy to remember really when we look at the DISC model. So William Marston, I think it was in 1938, identified this particular style, the DISC model. So what does DISC stand for? So D stands for decisiveness, direct, dominant. They really love to be in charge. You know any D's in your life? And then the I's, they are the influential, the inspirationals, they are impulsive, they are the life of your party. The S's are the more stable, steady, secure individuals. Man, they're the carers. I love the S's. They're such beautiful people. And then, of course, you've got the C's. They are concise, they're conscientious, and of course, they are correct. They love the data, they love the details, they love to be precise. Do you know any of these people in your life? What about you? Do you identify, when I mention those characteristics, more directly with a D, an I, maybe an S or a C? Of course, we're all blends of these 4 different personality styles. So you may be a very dominant D and direct, but you also might be an ID. You might be a friendly individual, but still very direct in your mannerisms and in your behavior. You might not be as high on the S and the C side, or vice versa. You might be very conscientious and data-driven and quieter by nature, but more reserved, not as much as the outgoing, direct, and I personalities, the D and the I. What did you identify with when I talked about step 1, which is really knowing me? That's what I call it, knowing me. Step 1 is knowing my specific personality style. Right, so we've identified, we've got a better idea in terms of your personality style and how you would maybe relate and behave with other people in terms of your personality style. But what about step number 2? Step number 2 is now what I call knowing you. In other words, knowing the personality style of the person that you're trying to connect with and communicate with effectively. Be that your significant other at your home, whether it be somebody at work, maybe it's somebody across the counter in a shop, serving someone or being served. It's really advantageous to know the personality style of the other person. Now, my story is, as I mentioned to you, I'm a pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for the last 30 odd years, and I spent a majority of my time as a retail pharmacist owning my own pharmacy. And I could tell you that at any one time, if there was a queue of people waiting for prescriptions, there would be all 4 personality styles in that queue. And well, put it this way. One of them would not be in the queue. Guess which one it would be? Mr. or Mrs. D would bypass the queue, they would barge through, they'd put the prescription on the counter, kind of, Sean, here's my script, I'm in a hurry, I'll be back later. Or better still, deliver it to my door. Mr. D, direct and dominant, in charge, power suit, power attitude, and out the door they go. What about Mr. or Mrs. I, standing in the queue, talking to everybody, hands going all over the place, having fun, laughing, making friends, keeping everybody relaxed and entertaining everybody? What about Mr. or Mrs. S? The beautiful people, other friendly people, the caring people. What do? They stand back and say, after you, man, because the lady's pregnant or got a child there. So they're courteous and nice, and they let people through, and they're just such warm-hearted people, and they connect at such a deep level. Beautiful people. And then, of course, you've got the C's. Now, Mr. and Mrs. C have already worked out that it's going to take about 10 minutes and 45 seconds to be served, working at the average waiting time per person right now. They are precise. They've got the data down to the T. So I experienced this across the counter. And so well before I even became a qualified DISC personality consultant in 2015 when I certified, well before then, for decades before then, I was studying personalities and how best to speak the other person's language. Which brings me to step number 3. But before we get there, if you're enjoying these stories, if you're enjoying this value add today, please do me a favor and hit that button below, subscribe, and the little bell next to it so you can be notified when I put out another video about personalities, about communication, about inspiration, about leadership, and so much more to do with personal growth. So make sure you subscribe below. Also like and comment and share it around with your mates. I'd really appreciate it. Step number 3. Well, we now know my personality style. I'm more aware of the personality styles of those around me, the D's, the I's, the S's, the C's, and maybe a blend thereof. Now what must I do? Well, it stands to reason. I want to speak to you. You want to speak to me. So what we need to do is learn to speak each other's language. Now, take for example, imagine you meet somebody and they speak French, and you kind of, well, they don't speak much English, and to their dismay, you're English, and you don't speak much French. It's rather broken, to say the least. So you want to make the effort. You want to take the time because you really want to connect with the other person, to learn just a little bit of French or a little bit of English to connect better with the other individual. You want to learn their style of communication, their language of communication. Now, of course, if you had that attitude like, well, no, I'm not going to learn your language, you speak my language, or vice versa, that is going to lead to miscommunications, misunderstandings, probably conflict, and a lot of offense. You've probably experienced this when speaking to a person who's a foreigner. And if you didn't want to learn their language or try and understand them at least, or use sign language of some way, using your hands to understand them, there was probably a miscommunication and breakdown, misunderstandings. But because you and I, we want to get to know each other. We want to connect with one another. So we want to learn each other's language. So in doing that, we take every effort. We make every effort. We take the time, we take the effort, and we really reach out to learn each other's language. Now, the experience that I had, even as a pharmacist. Yeah, so we live in the beautiful gastronomical capital of South Africa, and in a little village called Franschhoek down here in the Western Cape of South Africa. If you haven't been to South Africa, you have to visit. You have to visit and come and visit this beautiful little village called Franschhoek here. And Franschhoek is really a hub, a mecca of foreign visitors. When they come over from Europe, from France and Italy and Holland, and also from the UK, and of course the States, love to come out here in our winters because it's such beautiful weather, such mild winters compared to a lot of places around the world. So please, I digress. I'm punting Franschhoek. I digress. What personality style do you think Sean has if he digresses in conversation? Hit me up in the comments below and tell me what you think my personality style is. I'd love to see what you have to say. Right, back to the point, Sean. The point is that as these foreigners would come through, and they come in buses and tour buses, they come through, they'd come and get some medication or browse around, take some photographs of the local pharmacy. Maybe a French group would come in. And I learned very soon in the early 2000s that when I was serving these customers, it was important for me to at least make an attempt to communicate with them. So I'd maybe say, "Comment allez-vous?" And of course, you could just see the smiles on the faces, and almost you could see that sort of that relief and the smiles, as I say, as they connected with me. And of course, then they would start to speak about this and that and the mal, the pain, etc. Well, before long, I was like, "Jermaine, the French tour guide, please come help." But just that smallest attempt right up front to connect with those people made such a difference. You've probably experienced this as well. You've spoken a little, you said hola to somebody, and then they went off, and you just didn't know the rest. But that attempt to connect with them in their language, well, that made all the difference. So similarly, when we come to our personality styles, just like when we speak in somebody else's language, whether it's French or Spanish or English or Russian or Greek or whatever it is, similarly when it comes to personality styles, when you take the effort, make the time to just really get to know them a little bit more and then speak their personality styled language, wow, what a difference it makes. And you've probably experienced it yourself, and you probably love it yourself. Whether it's consciously or subconsciously, you love it when somebody tries to speak your language. For instance, if you're a D, you love it when someone's brief and being gone, to the point and get out of here. If you're an I, you love it when people entertain you or allow you to speak, or if they are I's, we call it the Mutual Admiration Society, telling jokes and stories and using hands. Yes, using hands. If you're an S, you love connecting with people, and you love hearing about them, and you love caring for them and looking after them, and you're a very stable and very loyal individual, and you love tonality to be just a little bit quieter, just not as loud as those I's out there. What about the C's? Well, you would just prefer not to have the conversation. You prefer to have that email sent to you with 20 links and 30 studies if you're a pharmacist, and all the details, all the data. You'd be happy with that, and to be given time to come back with a reflective response where you've researched the issues. That would be the C's. Learning to speak someone else's language is such a valuable skill. Take the time to do that. Now, if this has been helpful to you, I'm going to be doing a lot more of this going forward. But if you really want to press into communicating effectively, connecting with people at a whole new level, I promise you, at a whole new level, then you need to take the DISC assessment. I love the DISC assessment. The one that we do is a very unique assessment, the Maxwell DISC personality assessment. It's about a 30 to 31 page PDF that you get, a very thorough document that talks about your different styles of communicating and connecting, how you are to yourself, to others, and even under pressure and under stress. That is quite revealing, to say the least. Your fears, your blind spots, and your dominant natural strengths. I absolutely love this assessment. If you want to know more about these assessments, please hit me up in the link below in our description here, and I'll tell you more about how we can take next steps together. I've been very blessed to help hundreds of people with the assessments, and recently just led a group of executives through their own assessments, and they were gobsmacked, not only at the accuracy and how it was brief and to the point, direct and to the point, but how fun it was to connect with their teammates around the board table and to identify each other's styles. And we had some great fun. For those that wanted to really feel like they want collaboration, they want teamwork, they want to work together, it brought the team together. And the details of each step are laid out so beautifully for those of you who want a little bit more data and a little bit more detail. So if you want to connect either for yourself, maybe you and your partner, your significant other, your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, boyfriend, maybe you're getting married and you really don't want to be like two ships in the night. Man, this should be part of premarital counseling. I always say, please make sure that you learn to communicate. When we're going to the marriage counseling, we often deal with spiritual matters and other matters. But we don't even understand how to connect with one another, how to communicate effectively with one another. And we spend years and years and years speaking foreign languages. Hello? Anybody there spoken to their wife or their husband, and the one speaking verbally and the other one's processing it in their minds, and you can't understand each other? Why don't you understand me? Why don't you listen to me? Why don't you talk to me? I see that hand. Michelle and I have been blessed to be married for 30 years now, and coming up next month, I can't believe it. We've known each other for 35 years, met each other in 1986. Can you believe it? Yeah, I met her when she was 5 years old. Don't want to give her age away. Absolutely beautiful. And we just love each other. We love each other. Man, we've had to learn to connect. We've had to learn to communicate. I wish that someone had really taught me this and sat down with me and done an assessment with me, given me one of these reports. It would have been like, boom, light bulb moment. changed the game for me. Changed the game for me when this happened. Because I now realize what I'd been doing over the counter all those years, assessing different personalities, and I put it together in a precise 30-page document, which you can have if you decide to do that. Hit me up in the comments below or in the description. Just click on that, go to my website, send me a contact form, send me an email, and I'll tell you more about how we can work together in terms of developing your personality style, helping you with your personality style, helping you to connect better with other people. Folks, this has been Sean Willard, speaker, coach, and author of the book Have a Life Attack, and certified DISC personality and behavioral consultant. I love what I do. I live my purpose. What's your purpose? We'll talk more about that in another video. Hopefully this has added massive value to you. If it has, hit that like, hit that comment, share it around, and help me reach out and impact other people's lives too. God bless.